All right. Everybody's doing good. We just finished a good walkthrough with our team. This has been, a work week for us, an opportunity to get healthy and attack some of our strengths, attack some of our weaknesses, and find ways to improve. But team's working good and in a really good mindset.
You're on the right, Zach.
After the game, in the midst of all the chaos, you kind of let out a primal scream. I'm curious what was going through your mind in that moment, if you even remember that moment and just what that felt like.
Yeah, I was just jacked, man. I was excited.
You're on the right, Aaron.
Coach, as a defensive guy, you spend a lot of time working on ways to disrupt quarterbacks. From that vantage point, how impressed are you with Dante's ability to remain unflappable, and how much of a challenge is it going to be for other coaches to figure out a way to get in his head?
Yeah, his calm and the poise is really impressive, and I think he carried a narrative early when he left UCLA. If you pressure this guy, it's not going to be the same. Well, obviously, he's a different quarterback, right? He handles pressure extremely well. He protects the ball. Even the big third down conversion to Kenyon, across. That's a throw that a lot of times you tell your quarterback, don't make that throw, don't make that throw. Oh, good. I'm glad you made that throw, right? And he has those moments. His ability to make decisions and pressure moments this year has been really impressive.
The Brett Favre throw, right?
If it works, right? Yeah.
Right here on the left, Eric.
Sort of following up on Zach's question, we hear players talk about what it's like to play in these games. What's it like to coach in these games and the emotions and kind of the adrenaline?
Yeah, I didn't play a single snap, and I'm the guy cramping on the plane ride home. Like, you feel like you played a game. It's mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting. And it's, again, a game that could have gone either way that it's really refreshing to be on the other end of that when it does. But everybody in our program put everything they had into that game.
Right here on the left, John.
Dylan makes that game-sealing pick, and he's kind of in that high linebacker spot where he can play the run and the pass, and that's exactly what he does in that one. But what makes him such a special player where you want him in that role?
Yeah, just his level of intelligence to handle a lot. We pitch a lot to a guy that's really been in our program 1 year, and he puts in the work to be able to execute at a really high level. Man, he's a good tackler. He's physical. He does a good job in coverage. He checks a lot of boxes. So you want part of a job as a coach is put guys in positions that they're going to be productive in a system, and that's what we feel like. With Dylan, he's been very productive in that role. For us, and we're putting him in a position for him to have success and our team to have success.
On the left, James.
Gotten clarification from the Big Ten on the targeting call that wasn't, and regardless of targeting, why it wasn't even unnecessary roughness.
Yeah, but basically what was explained to me is there's a difference in college rule and the NFL rule, as far as head contact, and I think it's something that will be addressed hopefully in the future. Probably a rule that needs to be reestablished. But again, it's about, was there contact with the crown of the helmet from the defender, and that wasn't necessarily. It didn't happen.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, at the beginning of the season, you talked about how much you would take talent over experience any day. Now that this team has the talent and the experience, how much more dangerous do you feel like this team has become in the last couple of weeks, and what's it been like watching them become that over the last couple of weeks?
I think we have a good team. I don't think anybody can tell you what your team is, early in the season. The key is that this team's grown every week, and that's the key, is that we have to continue to grow, right? You can't be satisfied with the growth we had, because other teams will grow. And the teams that continue to grow and get better every single week, that's going to give you the best version of you at the end of the year. So ultimately, love the position that we're in, but only love it if we keep watering the plant and keep growing, keep getting better.
On the right, Zach.
Dante was obviously emotional after the game. You shared a special moment with him, a hug after that. I'm curious what that moment was like and what you might have said to him in that moment.
I love you. It's just, and it's not because of how well he played. It's about the buy-in. It's about the work that he's put in. It's about the extra time. It's about the way he treats his teammates. It's the composure that he shows, the way he makes people around him. He talked earlier about Noah Whittington getting on him in practice because of a lack of focus, and him not operating the way that he wanted to, and how much he appreciated knowing that moment. And now on the reverse end, him being able to say, I want to go pick Noah up after, that play is almost, fumble. And like that, we have leaders on our team that can go back and forth and challenge each other to be the best version of themselves. I think that's really special. And that's part of what Dante's done here.
Back left, Aaron.
What's the most beneficial part of where this bye lies between Penn State and then another big matchup against Indiana?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it fell in the right spot for us. I felt like we just played one of our most physical games. So the recovery piece, I think, is really huge for us. This bye week, I've set it up differently than I have in the past, based on recovery and time for our guys. It's also beginning of school for our guys. It's a great time to be able to start school, right? In a unique time where it doesn't necessarily affect us in the middle of a game week. So our guys can really attack the classroom the way they need to be able to attack the classroom. And it's a great time for us to go back. We have enough of a picture, right, of what our team is so far where we can really assess what do we do well and what do we not, and what are some of our strong tendencies on both sides of the ball that we need to make sure that we can address. And great teams have tendencies, so some of those we'll keep, right? We're gonna maintain those tendencies, but some of those we can certainly sprinkle in some wrinkles that make us different.
On the right, Aaron.
From a coach's perspective, can you talk a little bit about seeing Gary Bryant overcome, he transferred and injuries, and now he's producing? And he said he wanted to also be a mentor to some of the younger guys. How has he done in that area? And has he helped bring some kind of calmness maybe and help to Dante as well?
Yeah, I think Gary is a pillar, right, of our program and the way he operates, what he does. He's one of the most trusted players on our team, from an assignment standpoint, that he's going to do his job consistently. He's never been a me guy. He's always been a we guy. And I think that really shows, in that game. I don't know how much action he got. And then you get into overtime and he makes a huge play, right, and is able to go execute at a really high level. But that's exactly who he is in practice every day. He's going to run on every route full speed, regardless if the ball comes his way or not. He's going to block his tail off. He's going to know his assignment. He's going to be there for his teammates. And obviously a great example of that on Saturday.
On the left, Eric.
Sort of similar to you, Indiana had a fair amount of turnover, and especially at some big positions, and here they are undefeated. What does that say about Kurt and kind of the program they're running?
Well, they're obviously really well coached. They've got a team that plays really hard. They're getting great quarterback play. I think you have to have a good team. You got to have good quarterback play. They have that, and they're a tough team to go operate against. They're doing some good things, and we're not too far ahead right now on Indiana. We're really more on us, but just from afar and glancing at them, you can see a lot of that.
On the left, John.
Be able to go into an environment like that and no operational issues on the offensive line. We saw Poncho's communication there, but when you have a group that there's not really that continuity because he's the only returning starter, how important is he as the center specifically, kind of bringing that continuity and that communication to that O-line to operate in an environment?
Yeah, huge. Poncho did an unbelievable job, and I give a lot of credit to Coach Terry, Coach Cutter, Coach Walk, all those guys throughout the week of creating chaos throughout the week. Demanding communication from those guys, and then those guys having the same demands for themselves. But Poncho did an elite job. Dave Iuli, half the game he's looking backwards, right? And then he has to turn around and play guard. That's hard, right? And he did an unbelievable job of that. Emmanuel Pregnon had one of his best games. There's that whole unit. We operate as that, how well they do is how well we do. And they did a really good job.
James.
Looked like Dalen's arm got rolled pretty awkwardly. What's his status?
I think he's going to be in good shape. It's been something that's bothered him in a couple games this year, but I think he's going to be good.
Back right, Brett.
Kind of taking a transition to the NFL. Dylan today was named starting quarterback for Cleveland heading into this next week.
Officially?
I believe so, but I guess I can double check and then confirm it again.
No, you're good if it's official. I just don't want to say anything that I didn't see.
Yeah, I want to make sure. I checked NFL and Adam Scheffler, and I believe that everything should have seemed legit. So what are your thoughts on just another quarterback being, a starting quarterback that's been under your leadership?
I'm excited for Dylan. Right, he's a guy that works extremely hard, and I know he won't take it for granted. He still has done an unbelievable job of staying connected with our players here, which is pretty awesome for a guy that's moved on to the next phase of his life that still touches base with our team. But I'm excited for him, excited for his opportunity. I know he'll make the absolute best of it.
On the right, Zach.
You guys said you had an aggressive mindset in this game. Obviously, 7 fourth down attempts. Going into that first overtime, you have a chance to go for 2 and put away the game. I'm not at all questioning the decision. I'm just curious what went into that decision and how close was the call that you made?
I just think sometimes, there's moments that you want to leave it to the players, right? And the coaching staff and what we've pieced together. And there's moments that you want it to play out on the field. And in my mind, being that was the end of the first overtime, we know we make the kick, we get to go to the second overtime. I feel like that's giving your players a chance to go have success. We hadn't had a 2-point play against them yet. So a lot of times that comes down to, okay, 2-point play, like what do you think they're going to be in? Do you like your call? And with us, the unknowns to me spoke a lot more than the knowns, right? We had a lot of fourth downs. You'd love to say go convert third down. You don't have that many fourth downs. But at that point in the game, when we get to the 7th, 4th down, we got a pretty good idea of what they're going to be in and will this work, right? When you go to that first overtime and you go to the first 2-point play of the game, do you know what that's going to look like? They had a good defense when we did have to go for 2 after that second overtime. So in my mind, it's let it play out in the field, give your players an opportunity to win the game. And I don't know if you're giving them the best chance to go win the game when you go for 2 there and you don't know what the opponent's going to do. Right, it's really a limited, amount of time for Coach Knowles there at Penn State at that moment. Defending us, what would that look like? We had ran a 2-point play in the Ohio State game the year before and felt like, okay, this could be something that they were in, but the unknowns is probably what made me say, let's let our players play it out on the field more than the knowns.
On the left, Eric.
We saw Dier have kind of a bit of a breakout game and a larger workload, at least in terms of touches, than in previous games. Like how big of an impact can he have in this offense?
A huge one. And I think that's shown. I think every week we've come in here and said, watch, his role is going to continue to grow. And when you take advantage of opportunities, it'll continue to grow.
Back left, Aaron.
Pat McAfee mentioned on game day that you texted him, kind of giving him some crap about them wearing all white. I'm curious to know if he sent you a text after the game and what he said.
Yeah, I also texted him, hey, don't say this on air. And then he said it on air. But I wasn't even going to text him, but I'm sitting in the hotel room in Altoona with my son Titan, and I'm making some of my notes for the game. And Titan looks over and he goes, that's so disrespectful. I was like, what? He goes, all the guys on game day are wearing white. And I thought Pat would get a kick out of that. Titan was pretty fired up, so I sent that text. But yeah, after the game, he sent me a text. I don't remember exactly what it said.
On left, John.
Poise is the word we've heard a lot of people say with Dante and the way he was able to handle that environment. But when you look at some of the plays he was able to make on the field, the touchdown to Gary to end it, where he steps around Dennis Sutton and he's staying calm out there, and he's able to make those plays off script. What impressed you about that, where he can do that, but also not put the ball in jeopardy at any times?
Yeah, I think you see those in practice for us. So for you guys, it's new, and for us, it's something we've seen him do consistently. Even the scramble play on the third down that he throws, the DeCorian, like that's not on script. That's not the way it's supposed to play out. But what's that take? It takes more than just Dante, right? It takes a wideout being in the right location. It takes him getting that work in practice. And I think Dante would tell you, I got that work in practice. I've seen that. I've experienced that. I was ready for that moment. Coach Stein and Coach Koa have set that drill up for me where I've experienced it already. And then for it to show up in a game and execute, it's pretty awesome.
James.
Why wasn't Mekhi part of the trip this past week, and what's his status right now with the program down?
Yeah, he's asked a red shirt, and we honored that opportunity for him.
On the right, Zach.
I know you said, excuse me. I know you said that you're not really on to Indiana yet. You're more focused on yourself. You guys played Mendoza a couple years ago when he was with Cal. What do you remember from seeing him then, and how's he grown since then?
Yeah, just he's a talented quarterback. We had some success that day, but he also had some success as well. And I think you've seen that this is a guy that can play football at a high level.
Eric.
Just the way you're kind of one in the trenches on Saturday, I'm curious just kind of on what the message was going in and kind of the celebration afterwards, just with those particular players being dominant on both sides.
Yeah, we just thought that battle was really important. We didn't play to our standard in the Big Ten championship, especially in the second half when it came to controlling the line of scrimmage defensively. And I thought we had much better answers as a coaching staff for our players too, to help them to be able to do that. But our D line stepped up big. Our offensive line stepped up big. We thought the rushing battle would be really important in this game. When you talk about two good teams, two good defenses, whoever could stay on schedule in this game. Time of possession isn't something we talk about very often, but I think we were high in that category in this game because we were able to maintain drives and we were able to sustain or stop drives for them. So all those things really factored in, and the trenches was a big part of that.
Two more, James, then Brett.
You use your term, Dan, when you look at opposing teams and refer to snakes, how many of those snakes did you render proverbially cutting off the heads of snakes this past week, and how did that compare to your tenure here?
I don't know necessarily the answer to that question. Ultimately, I mean, they had some success in the game, and I think they found some stuff that they were doing well. But obviously, their backs were a big part of that, right? Their edges were a big. There's several pieces in that game. Ultimately, I think we challenged a lot of players to do a job at a high level, and I think our players did that. You don't look at that game afterwards and say, did this guy play? Like, it took our team's best, and several guys played to the standard in that game.
Last question, back right, Brett.
Coach, obviously to have a game against Penn State last week, but then to have a week to get off and get ready for Indiana next week. Just how good does it feel to have that matchup at home in Autzen and to be able to show the crowd that what type of team this is, and again for a top 10 matchup, but in Autzen Stadium instead maybe not on television.
Yeah, I mean, we just experienced an unbelievable environment, and I'm excited to experience ours. Right, we prepared all week for a real challenge of what's this going to look like. Playing a place where you don't have that on your side. Now at Autzen, this would be something that can be an advantage for us and something we will have on our side. And I expect our fans to be what they always are, right? Unbelievably enthused, right? There from beginning to end. And anything about going in this conference and going around to games, you realize there's a lot of really hard environments to play in this conference. I hope that Autzen is always the hardest, right? That's what we want to create when we're here.